Crisis, recession, recession. Words that Washington, D.C. has not heard of. Washington, D.C. economic strength. Washington, D.C. provoked resentment as it continued to demonstrate economic strength even as a large part of the country struggled with the recession. The Great Recession is one of the most severe economic crises in American history. The capital, Washington, was left virtually untouched when the rest of the country suffered. The capital was also one of the first places to start seeing growth when the recovery began. Washington's success provoked resentment as the region thrived in the Depression. New buildings and a rich economy were nourished by the federal government and taxpayers. President Donald Trump even managed to gain an enthusiastic base by positioning himself as an outsider who challenged the elite class in Washington. During the recession, Washington was much more successful than almost everyone, said Joel Kotkin, of Chapman University. Let's face it, it was the only place where jobs were created. The region has expanded by 14% since the start of the recession. The rest of the country grew by only 3% during this period. It did not exist before 1880. It was then only Georgetown and Alexandria, and they were seaports. The Great Recession was caused by the subprime mortgage crisis and the 2007 financial crisis. The federal government responded with incentive programs designed to boost the economy by increasing employment and spending. The Problem Assets Assistance Program, for example, which the federal government has purchased toxic assets and equity from financial institutions to strengthen the financial sector. The federal government has had to increase recruitment to run the recession, said Professor Stephen Fuller. They hired more people to do this who helped neutralize the consequences of the recession. Washington also has no production base. It has a very special economy. Fuller points out that the perception may be exaggerated based on the study. Criticism often ignores the fact that the city is equally at risk of losing land in line with federal government actions. When you compare Washington to the 15 largest metropolitan areas in the country, we are the fastest growing, Fuller said. Detroit's metropolitan area has surpassed the Washington area in the last 6 years. The Washington area looks rich, and looks comfortable, and that's it. Claire points out that perception will always be around to one degree or another. It does not even have to be directed to Washington, D.C. Wherever there is a concentration of government, there will likely be taxpayers financing it. These federal workers get their salaries based on taxes, said Clower, director of the Center for Regional Analysis. There will always be the perception that political capital areas live off everyone's penny. The federal government also assists non-political industries in not-so-easy areas by being there and providing customers in the form of federal workers and contractors. Claire notes that local politicians have worked to encourage innovative and new industries to help the region become less dependent on federal spending. The regional leaders, the economic development leaders, the business leaders, in this region, and even the local political leaders, are very much in line with the region's need to grow the federally independent industrial sectors, Claire said. In other words, the federal government will always be an important part of this regional autonomy, but it should be a smaller part.